Hi guys, here is your review for Chapter 7, which is all about decimals, and we focus on the 10th place and the 100th place. As a review, everyone should be able to answer what is a decimal, and hopefully you realize that it is a part of a whole. If you think of money, the whole would be like the dollars, and the part would be the change, which is why when we talk about change, it's in decimal form. We have a place value, a small place value chart. If you notice that this is the decimal, we know that this says and the whole numbers are to the left of the decimal, and the decimal point, the parts of it, are to the right of it. So if I write a 3 here in the whole, then that means I have 3 wholes, and if I were going to put something in the 10th place, like a 4, I would have 4 tenths. So keep in mind that this is the 10th place, and this is the whole numbers. Here are some practice problems with tenths. Okay, I always think of dimes because I always think like, oh, a tenth is 1 dime, which is worth 10 cents. So if I have 4 tenths, I don't have any whole numbers because 4 dimes isn't quite $1. So I have 0 wholes, and I'm putting my 4 in my tenths place. Or I can think of it as 40 hundredths because I know that 4 dimes is 40 pennies, which is the same thing. So this and this are the same.
If you were writing 4 tenths, though, you would want to make sure your answer is in tenths. So make sure your final answer, you can think of it as being the same as 40 hundredths. If it says 4 tenths is equal to, make sure you write 0.4 as your decimal answer for that, though. You'd be looking for a multiple choice.
Oh, yeah. 16 tenths. If I have 16 tenths, that's improper. I'm automatically thinking the number on top is bigger. So obviously I can't fit a 16 in 1/10 place because that's too big of a number. So you could think of it as changing it from an improper to a mixed number. So if I were going to do that, I would think 10 goes into 16. I have one group, and I have 6 tenths left over, which would be 1 and 6 tenths. Or you could think of it as money, of having 16 dimes, because a dime is worth 10 cents. If I have 16 dimes, I can group 1/10 of them. 10 dimes is $1, and 6 dimes would be our 6 cents, 6 dimes left over, so 1 and 6 tenths. Last one is 2 and 9 tenths. That one's a mixed number. I kind of just read this one out loud and then write exactly what it says. So it says 2 and, so I would write 2 and 9 tenths, 9 tenths. And I can check and say, oh, this is a whole number, this is a whole number, and this is my tenths place, and this is in my tenths place. Okay? So thinking about tenths, just always make sure that you have the number in the correct place value.
After tenths, we went on to talk about hundredths. Here's your place value chart again in case you're remembering. Your decimal point is what divides your wholes from your parts. We say and when we read it out loud. My whole numbers are going to be on the left-hand side. My partials are going to be on the right-hand side. This is the tenths place that we just covered. And we're going now to the hundredths place. So if I'm 2 places out from my decimal point, I'm in the hundredths place. We want to keep in mind that's like being a penny. A penny is 1/100th of $1. So 1 penny would be 0.01 1/100th of $1. Okay? When we look at hundredths problems and we're trying to turn them into decimals, we're thinking, what do we have in our place value chart there then? We have no holes, and our number is 75 hundredths. So my 75 needs to end in my hundredths place. 0 and 75 hundredths. Same thing when I do 35 hundredths. I have no holes, and then I have 35, and I'm ending in the hundredths place, 35 hundredths.
I also think of it too, like if you have 35 pennies, how many dimes do you have? I have 3 dimes, so that's in my 10th place, and I have 5 pennies left over, that's in my 100th place.
308 hundredths is an improper fraction. We know that that's going to be some wholes and some parts. There's a couple ways you can think about it. You could pull out groups of a whole. So I end up with 3 whole groups, and in my last group I'm left with 8 to fill that last group of 100. That's going to give me 3 wholes and 8 out of 100, which I can then write as a decimal as 3 wholes and 8 hundredths. I could also divide it, and I could get to that same mixed number by dividing. 100 goes into 308 3 times with 8 left over, which gives me 3 and 8 hundredths. Okay? Reading the decimal back to yourself is super important. If you know that this fraction is 75 hundredths, when you read this decimal, you should get no holes, 0, and when you read this, it should be 75 hundredths. Think about when we did that I have, who has game. You were pretty good at reading decimals. read it back to yourself, and make sure that what you see in fraction form matches what you're saying to yourself in decimal form.
And if, last one right here, this 308. If you have 308 pennies, you should be thinking that you have $3.08, and then make sure it says $3.08. Number lines. Okay. If there is one piece of advice I have about number lines, it's that you need to slow down and you need to look at each number before you try and figure out anything in the number line. So if I'm looking and it says 0 and it says 1/10 and it says 2/10 and 3/10, and then it's asking me for things in the middle, a lot of times we freeze up and we're like, nothing's in the middle between 0 and 1/10. Okay, that's when you have to stop and think that there's something that you are not looking at. If I always think of, if you are really stuck and don't know what to do, you need to change the numbers into hundreds. If I have 1/10, if I put a 0 here, which is a placeholder, I now have 10 hundredths, which is the same. 2/10 is 20 hundredths, and 3/10 is 30 hundredths. If making it think about money is easier for you, if you have 10 cents and you have 0 to 10 cents, what's in between that? If you look down here, we broke that up. So we took our little 0 and our 1/10, and we looked in between. We could have 100ths, 200ths, 300ths, 400ths, 500ths, 600ths, all the way up to 10 hundredths, which is a whole. If you think of money, if I have 10 cents, 9 cents, 8 cents, 7 cents, you can think about it. So if you were looking in between 10 and 20 hundredths, 20 cents and 10 cents and 20 cents, you could have 15 cents. Or here, you could have 27 cents. Think of it that way to help you figure out what the numbers are on the number lines.
So if we were going to do number lines to solve this one, you could think you started here. Well, 1/10 is the same as 10 hundredths. And then I'm counting up 11 hundredths, 12 hundredths, I'm missing 13 hundredths, 14 hundredths, 15 hundredths, I'm missing 16 hundredths. Okay? Most of the time what they're going to try to do is they're going to they're going to give you a number line in tenths, put missing stuff in the middle, and you're going to need to know that's hundredths that are missing. All right, after we went over number lines, we moved into rounding. We're rounding to two places with decimals. We're rounding to the tenths, and we're rounding to the whole number. I'm going to round each of these three numbers to the tenths and the whole. If you want to pause the video and try these on your own, and then watch the video and make sure you got them right, that's a good strategy if you think this is something you already know. First thing I'm going to do is round to the tenths. If I'm rounding to the tenths place, I'm rounding to the dimes. It's like I want no pennies. But the pennies are going to tell me what I do. The hundredths place, it's always the place value to the right that tells us what to do with the place value we're rounding to. When you were rounding whole numbers, and we wanted to round to the hundredths place, we looked at the tens place to tell us what to do, right? And that would round down to 300. The same thing happens with decimals. We look to the place value to the right. So 4 and below, let it go. So this is going to round to 37 and 1/10. I'm going to leave that alone. We were in between $37.10 and $37.20. We were at $37.14. Money is always the way to go if you're stuck because you have 2 years of experience with money, if not more. And decimals are much more brand new to us, okay? Same problem though. I'm going to take this same number, and now instead of being between $37.10 and $37.20, I'm between the whole number, 37, and the whole number, 38. So I'm rounding to my ones place. I'm rounding the whole. What's going to tell me what to do there is my tenths place. The 1 is going to say to let it go, and I'm going to round to the whole number, 37. So this would be rounding to the tenths. This is rounding to the whole. All right, let's try the next one. We're going to round to the tenths. Here's my tenths place. The boss is going to be next door. 4 and below, let it go. So to the tenths, I'm going to round to 1 and 8/10. If I'm rounding to the whole number, I'm rounding to the ones place. The 8 is the boss. 5 and above, give it a shove. I'm going to round up. That's going to round up to the whole number 2. 24 hundredths, I'm rounding to the nearest tenths. 4 and below, let it go. I'm going to round to 2/10. Remember, I'm somewhere between being 20 cents and being 30 cents. I'm at 24 cents. That's going to round back down. Those pennies are going to drop off. I'm going to round down to just dimes, 20 cents. If I'm rounding to the nearest whole number, right now, I have no wholes and I have 2/10. 2/10 is going to let it go. So this is going to round down to be 0. I was somewhere between 0 and 1, and I'm closer to being 0. Okay? If you had any trouble with these, make up some own problems for yourself and have your parents double check them.
Okay, last thing is fractions to decimals. I'm hoping that by now, because of place value, if you are looking, say you have a number, this is your ones, this is your tens, and this is your hundreds. We should know that because we're in the tens or the hundreds, our fractions have to be in the tens or the hundreds. There's no other option for our fractions. So if we get fractions like these that don't have a denominator of 10 or 100, then you have to make equivalent fractions and change them. So if I have 3/5, you can either change this to a 10 or to a 100. I'm going to pick 10 because I think I know that 5 times 2 will change it to a 10. But whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. If I have 6/10, then I think of my place value and I have 0 holes and 6/10. If I have 26/25, already I'm like, uh-oh, that's improper. It doesn't matter because you still have to change the denominators to 10 or 100. 25, I'm going to change to 100, and I think of this as, if I have 25, I think of quarters, because quarters are worth 25 cents. And if I'm trying to get to 100, I think, how many quarters are in a dollar? Well, there's 4, so 25 times 4 is 100. And I need to do 26 times 4. Here's where a lot of us get lazy, and we are like, oh, this is, I don't know, I don't have a calculator. You are totally capable of writing this problem off on the side of your paper and figuring it out. 6 times 4 is 24. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 2 is 10. I have 104 hundredths. If I have 104 hundredths, that's improper. But I think of pennies. If I have 104 pennies, then I have $1.04. This one says 3 and 13/50. This one's a mixed number. Already looking at this, I know that my decimal is going to be 3 point something because I have 3 holes here, so I have to have three holes here. I need to change this fraction to either 10 or 100. I'm going to do times 2 to make my denominator 100, and I'm going to do 13 times 2. If you don't know this, then you need to write this off the side, and you get 36 hundredths. Don't forget that you have these 3 holes, and you need to carry it over. So I have 3 and 36 hundredths, so I'm going to write 3 and 36 hundredths. That is how you get your fractions to a decimal. Change it from to a 10 or to a 100. The last thing you're going to see is you're going to get some decimals, and they're going to tell you to change those to a fraction. However, it has to be in simplest form. So if I have, let's say 0 and 2/10. If I have 2/10, 200ths, I'm going to literally write exactly what I said, 2 hundredths. I'm not done though because I'm noticing that both of these are even, so I can simplify and get 1/50. Now I am done. The last one, I literally read it out loud. If you need to use a whisper phone, you can. I'm reading 5 and 12 hundredths. So I write 5 and 12 hundredths. Now, this looks great as a fraction. However, once again, I'm noticing that both of these are even, so I can automatically have a few options. If you are stuck, by default, go to divide by 2, because they're both even. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 100 divided by 2 is 50, and I need to bring this 5. So I have 5 and 6/50. However,
they're both still even.
I can still divide, and here's what we always do. We leave it at this. Well, I'm not done. I have 5 and 6/50, and I can divide by 2 again. Bring my 5 over, and I have 5 and 3/25. And I'm thinking, well, I don't think the factors of 3 are 1 and 3. 3 can't go into 25, so I am done with this number. Okay? Remember, fractions to decimals, it has to be in a 10 or 100 because that is our place value.
Okay, so go over these. Make sure you're confident. If you're in my class, your test is tomorrow. If you're in Miss Johnson's class, your test is Wednesday.
And
you want to make sure that you're practicing any of these concepts that are still challenging for you. You have your textbooks home with you to go over anything you need to, or your workbooks home with you to go anything you need to.
And if you have your workbook and if you want practice, you can just look at those same problems, even though you already did them, and you can rewrite them and see if you can do them again. Or if you are like, oh, I don't know if we did all of the workbook pages, you could do pages 1 all the way up to 20. 1 through 20 are all on chapter 7. Flip through every single page and make sure that you've done every single one. If you haven't, you can totally do that to help you study. There's even the thinking cap pages on 19 and 20. So if you are like, ooh, I feel really confident, maybe try and do some of those to see if you can get the challenge problems. Make sure that you study, and if you need to rewatch the video, you can rewatch it, or maybe try and make up some problems on your own.
All right.
Good luck.
We'll see you tomorrow.